Hi everybody, it's me MegRae, and today I'm going to show you how to build this epic dragon statue in Minecraft. Special thanks to those of you who suggested I build a dragon. If you have any other suggestions for a tutorial, feel free to comment below and I will take those into consideration. Because of the scale of this build, I have split up the tutorial into 3 different sections so that it will be easier to follow along. And since it is a statue, I will be using stone, andesite, and cobblestone for this build. You can select any block to use, just keep in mind that we'll also be using a lot of stairs, so select your blocks accordingly. This dragon will fit in an area of 64 by 47 blocks, and will also be 38 blocks high. So make sure that when you do start building it, especially if you're building it in survival, that you have plenty of space to work with. Alright, let's get started! We're going to start with the body of the dragon, starting from the middle layer and working our way out. This middle layer is 8 blocks above the ground, so you'll need to measure 7 blocks up and start your layer on the 8th block. Now I'm going to create the outline of this layer following my diagram. If you ever want to build this in the survival world, I tried to keep it as hollow as possible so that you can conserve blocks as you follow the instructions. Once you have the first layer done, we're going to go on to the second layer. And this is the layer that will have the dragon's eye, so you can also select a block that you'd like to use for that. We're going to continue working on the left side of the dragon until it's complete, and then we'll work on the other side. Once you're certain the second layer is correct, you can move on to the third layer. This layer also has other stair blocks that are purple in the diagram. I'll be using stone brick stairs for these to match the stone a little better. In the fourth layer, we're going to introduce another block type. I will be using andesite for the horns on the dragon, as well as other areas that we will be doing later on. This layer is also the beginning of the dragon's legs. Take your time building these layers, as it's very easy to make a mistake, especially when it comes to the blocks that are farther away from the rest of the body. If it's helpful to you, you can always use another block to help you measure those far away blocks, as I did here using wool. Once you get to the 6th layer of the dragon, you'll have half of the head complete, and mostly half of the body. Just a few more layers on the left side before we begin the right. The rest of the layers in this body will be more focused on the legs of the dragon, getting all those finer details. It can sometimes be a little tricky to remember that each layer is 1 block away from the previous, so even if it looks like it's going to be directly on top of it, sometimes there will be gaps, such as the gaps that are in between all the dragon's toes. These last 2 layers are really small and kind of hard to see. If you can't really see them, they're on the feet of the dragon. Now this is just 1/2 of the dragon complete. Let's move on to the right side. The first few layers on the right side is practically an exact copy of the left. There will be a few changes, especially with his right forearm being raised a little more. Once again, you can use wool to help you measure out where exactly that needs to go. As you can see, I did make a mistake the first time, so I would always double check it to make sure it's in the right spot before starting the next layer. Some sections, such as the head, won't be different on this side, but the lower body definitely will be. Just like on the left side, we have just a few more layers to go while we finish off the legs and the feet on this side. At this point, we're about 50% done with this build. We still have to finish off the tail and work on the wings, so let's go ahead and get started with those. We're gonna move to the very back of the dragon and start working on the tail. This one spike that we're adding here with cobblestone will have the stairs facing the same direction as all of the other spikes. Once it gets to this point, the spikes will actually be facing the side as opposed to the head, so the diagram should be easier to follow from now on. The placement of the stairs on the underneath of the tail can be randomized, and it doesn't have to be exactly as I show it. You could always add more or fewer depending on how much smoothness you want in your tail. If you want it really smooth, then I would recommend adding extra stairs to smooth off all these hard edges. Time to work on the wings. We'll have to find the front stair on the spike that's directly on top of the dragon's back. Just measure 3 blocks away from that stair block. And that is where our first layer will go. Once you have your first layer down, the rest will follow really easily. As you can see, I'm using andesite and cobblestone for my wings. The first few layers will be disconnected, so make sure you're measuring those accurately. The wings on this dragon are exact mirrors of each other, meaning that if you really wanted to, you could work on the right wing along with the left as long as you know you're reversing it correctly. I will be showing you the diagram for the right as well, but that's just something you could do if you wanted to save time. While I'm showing you how to build this layer by layer, that is not the way I initially designed it. I wouldn't recommend designing anything layer by layer. This is just the easiest way for me to show you how to build it. These last few layers have some really tall block sections, so if you have trouble figuring out how many blocks it is in the diagram, you can always look at it in relation to where the andesite is placed, or vice versa for the cobblestone. I found myself very often lining up my cobblestone in relation to the andesite from a few layers back. Take your time as you work out these layers. There are a lot of them, and it can be a little tricky. Alright, time for the right wing. As I said before, this is an exact mirror of the left wing, so it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. We're going to start in the same location on the opposite side and work the layers out one at a time. As always, feel free to pause the video when needed. Alright, I'm going to leave you to it for the rest of these layers. Once you're done with both of the wings, then you are done with the dragon, unless you want to add some extra detail, which is totally up to you. But as an option, you can add extra stairs all around the dragon, adding cobblestone stairs where there's cobblestone and stone brick stairs where there's stone. Feel free to do this to your heart's content. This will not only add a little bit of detail, but also kind of randomizes the shapes so it's not as symmetrical as it was. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will be making more tutorials for you soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye!